So today we're going to talk about what is probably the easiest way to save on tax if you work a 9-to-5 job in Australia. We're of course talking about salary sacrifice, and we'll talk about how it all works and some of the drawbacks and some cons of this as well, like everything. If you guys are new here, my name is Faizy. This channel is about finance and investing. Before we begin, this video is not financial or tax advice. Please speak to an accountant or financial advisor before you do any of this. Let's jump into it. So as the name suggests, salary sacrificing is pretty much just sacrificing your salary for some sort of a benefit, usually for tax purposes and tax benefits. Now, we usually see this with stuff like salary sacrificing for superannuation, for novated leases, work laptops, and some other things as well. Now, in this video, we're mostly going to focus on superannuation because this is probably the most common type of salary sacrifice, and this has the power to actually compound and grow your wealth really quickly. So let's actually talk about this. Now, looking at the example, let's say that you're earning, $100,000 per year. Now, based on the income tax brackets, as you guys can see, you will have to pay a marginal tax of 32.5%. Now, instead of you paying the full tax on the full $100,000, let's say that you made a decision to salary sacrifice $10,000 into your superannuation. So what's going to happen is the $90K, which is left over, that'll be taxed as usual with your marginal tax rate of 32.5%. But that $10,000 will be put into your super, and that'll be taxed at a tax rate of 15%. So effectively what's happening is that you're paying half the tax on that $10,000, which if you had that 10K in the normal way, for example, with not salary sacrificing, you would be paying double the tax because the tax rate is 32.5%. Whereas with salary sacrificing into superannuation, the tax rate is 15%. Now, if that still did not make sense, we're going to run through a few examples. So hopefully, it starts to come all together. And as you guys can see, this is my PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully it's good enough. But as you can see, we've got two columns. Firstly is we're not salary sacrificing. Secondly is we are salary sacrificing. So we can see that in this financial year, let's say that you earned $90,000 and you decided to salary sacrifice $10,000 on the right column, right? So starting off with the left column, on that $10,000 on the last 10K, you'll be paying a tax rate of 32.5%, which turns out to be a dollar tax figure of $32.50, which is what you will pay to the ATO. And then the after-tax amount on that 10K is $67.50. Now, let's say that you decided to salary sacrifice that $10,000, you can see that the tax rate is going to shift to 15%, which is pretty much half. And then the actual tax that you'll pay is going to be $1,500 subsequently. And then the after-tax amount is going to be $8,500 for that financial year, which is a tax saving of $1,750, which is pretty insane if you really think about it. For most people, that is going to be a fortnightly salary or even like a weekly salary that you'll be saving, just on tax. So it's pretty efficient when it comes to this sort of stuff. Looking at the second example, we can see that pretty much everything is the same besides the income. And we can see that the income has gone down by $40,000. So let's say that you're earning, $40K per year as an example. We can see that as usual, the tax rate is going to be 19%. Tax is going to be $950. After tax amount is $40.50. But then if you decided to salary sacrifice in that financial year, you'll be getting a tax saving of $200 only, right? So we can see that if you're earning a lower income, doing salary sacrifice does not make too much sense because the savings are going to be quite little. If you're starting to earn a lot of money, that's when it starts to make a lot of sense because the tax rate really shifts up for those brackets. And then lastly, we're going to look at an example of someone earning $175,000 per year with a tax rate of 37%. The tax is going to be $3,700. After tax amount is $6,300. And then if you decided to salary sacrifice that $10,000, the tax saving is going to be $2,200, which is pretty insane just for that year. And then the actual tax that he will pay is going to be $1,500. So you can really see that if someone is starting to earn a pretty high income, doing salary sacrifice does allow for a lot of benefits, especially when it comes to tax. But if you're earning a lesser income, it does not make too much sense financially. But of course, this is not financial advice. You can do as you wish after speaking with your accountant or financial advisor. Now, I want to show you guys something really insane. So with the first example that we looked at with someone earning $90,000 per year and they saved around $1,750 per year, if we actually plug this into a compound interest calculator, we can see that if they salary sacrifice that money for say 35 years every single year, and their super fund was returning around 8% per year, which it should be if it's a good super fund, the return on that money after 35 years is going to be an insane $300,000, which is literally crazy. Now, this is the power of compounding, which really shows how important it could be to salary sacrifice depending on if it's the right thing for you or if it's not. Obviously, speak to the professionals. Now, if you're not too sure how this graph works and how this calculator works, I've done a full explainer video on how compound interest really works. Check this video out right here. Link in description as well. This will really explain how compound interest works and how you can use it to really accelerate your wealth building journey. Now, the other benefits of salary sacrificing is the first home super saver scheme, which can really help you to, buy your property, your first property. You can pretty much transfer money into your super pre-tax and post-tax and withdraw the money if you need to buy a property. Obviously, check the government websites to look at all the eligibility criteria and all the requirements and things like that, but it is a pretty good scheme for some people. So the benefits are great. Obviously, you're saving a lot of money on tax, and all this money can be invested into a good super fund, and the money can compound even more over time. So that's all good, but what are the cons of salary sacrificing? Now, the major con when it comes to salary sacrificing is the fact that you're pretty much, foregoing your money until you can access the money on a later date. So you can't really, use the money right now. It is pretty much locked away for that period until you meet the actual requirements, which are the conditions of release on the ATO website. So as you guys can see right now, you can only access your super once you actually reach the preservation age and retire. Secondly, if you reach a preservation age and you start to transfer into a retirement income stream, or if you're 65 years of age. Now, during COVID though, we did see some rules change where people were allowed to take out money from their super due to compassionate grounds and stuff like that. But apart from these sorts of events, you generally can't take money out until you actually reach your preservation age. And for most people, this age is going to be 65 years old. And as you guys can see, for most people, it is going to be when you're 60 years old if you were born after 1964, 1st July. But generally speaking, if you're a healthy person and you're working, you can't really access it before the preservation age. Now, the other thing that you have to consider is the fact that you're pretty much salary sacrificing your money away for the future. So you do have to make sure that right now you have enough money to meet your current obligations when it comes to, bills and, things like recreation stuff, fun stuff, and just, normal day-to-day stuff. So you have to make sure that you can pretty much balance out the future and the present. And look, this may sound pretty obvious, but it is worth saying, like, we all want to save money on tax, but we can't do it at the cost of our well-being. And then the other thing is, especially for someone who's in their 20s or someone who's really, really young, right? Thinking about retirement is not something that people generally do, especially when they're young, especially when it is 40 years away. Like, actually thinking about salary sacrificing and putting your money into super and locking that money away for 40 something years is a very scary thing to do and even think about for a lot of people. So it might not be a priority, and that's fully understandable. And personally, that is the reason why I currently don't salary sacrifice at the moment. It seems like a pretty huge kind of gamble to do that at the moment, especially when I don't really know where I'm going to be in 40 years from now. It is pretty much or almost double my current age. It is very, very far away. So I'd much rather use the money now and to do the things that I can right now, because my plan is to actually retire much, much before than the age of 60 or 65. So it makes sense to just use the money now to do other things with it. Now, I'm sure my opinion is going to change over time once I reach my 30s, 40s and 50s. But at the moment, this is a thing that I'm sticking with for now. Now, the other con when it comes to contributing to your super is the fact that starting from 1st July 2021, it is capped at 27.5K per year. Previously, it was 25K, which is good, but it has been increased, which is even better. But if you contribute more than that, I do believe that you pay more tax. Just keep that in mind to make sure that you stay below that threshold of 27.5K. For most people, for most like middle class people, it is going to be more than enough anyways. Now, also, you can use up the previous year's caps as well. So for example, in the previous years, if you didn't contribute extra into your super, you can still do it now and use up the previous year's caps as well. Now, there are a lot of conditions for this, so make sure you do read up on it. I'll leave a link to this webpage in the description, so make sure you check it out. Now, lastly, the superannuation guarantee is also increasing by 0.5% each financial year, which is absolutely amazing, which means that, previously it was 9.5%. This financial year, it is 10%. And then growing in the next couple of financial years, it's going to increase to 12% in 2025, which is absolutely amazing. Obviously, employers are going to contribute more into our supers over time. So obviously, the key benefits of this are better retirement outcomes for people. More Australians can live comfortably in retirement by 2050. And it also reduces significant pressures on the Australian age pension system. So salary sacrifice is one of the ways that we can use to save on tax. Obviously, this won't suit everyone, but it is an option that is out there. Now, if you guys are thinking about superannuation funds more and you want a guide as to how to compare superannuation funds in the first place, check out this video right here. This is pretty much a guide as to how to compare superannuation funds. And this video right here looks at the worst superannuation funds in Australia as looked at by APRA. So go check these two videos out. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Now I want to show you guys something really insane. So let's look at the first example.